Welcome to another edition of HDPR Live. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin. In this episode, we have Charles and Jeff joining us today. Gentlemen, welcome to HDPR Live.
Thank you, Jamie. Nice to be with you.
Thanks, Jamie. Good to be here.
So to give the audience a little bit of context, Charles and Jeff are the co-founders of Aftermarket Growth Solutions. They're a consulting and training business that is dedicated to helping their clients achieve sustainable aftermarket growth. It's a lot to say. It's a bit of a mouthful. We're going to get into what that exactly means and tap into their deep expertise in the heavy-duty industry. Charles, what is the biggest thing that you've seen change in the aftermarket in the last few years?
Oh, I think the market has become much more competitive. You're seeing new players enter the market from many different countries. E-commerce is changing how customers are ordering parts. And I think when you take it all together, you're seeing the customer expectations rise significantly. Where in the past, customer might have been okay with waiting 3 days for a part, today they want same-day delivery. So the expectations are greatly increasing.
You talk about that e-commerce component. I've talked a lot about that in the last few weeks. And really, when I think about e-commerce, I believe that the person who figures out how to have deliveries within a couple hours in the urban centers and next day in rural centers, I think that's the expectation that people are going to have in the future. And if someone can figure out how to do that, I think they're going to really dominate.
Yeah, Jamie, in fact, that is the expectation of many major customers today. It's a table stake if you want to conduct business with them. Penske locations, for example, Penske truck leasing locations expect delivery in urban centers sometimes a couple times a day. So delivery is an important element.
Yeah, and when I worked for traditional distributors as a sales account manager, that was something we always strive for. We had routes and we wanted our deliveries, a morning run, an afternoon run. And, when you've got all of these retail stores kind of dotted all over the country, you work for one of the big distributors, then that is the expectation. I think there's still a little bit of a disconnect with a lot of companies on the e-commerce of exactly how to fulfill those orders, but I just don't see any other way that isn't where we're going to be. And Charles, to your point, it really comes from or being driven by the expectations of customers.
And look at Amazon. Amazon's getting in the business and they're also going to increase the expectations.
Yeah, 100%. Jeff, when you look at the whole aftermarket, what's a big opportunity? Like, I think a lot of people in this audience, they're coming from either they work at distributors, they maybe work at an independent repair facility, or they work as a fleet maintenance manager. So when you're looking at all of that, where's the opportunity?
Well, the market is pretty big. It's a $30+ billion marketplace that's carved up between OE dealers, independent wholesale distributors, heavy-duty specialists, auto parts stores, a lot of players, thousands and thousands of players in the marketplace. And to me, whether you're an equipment manufacturer, a truck manufacturer, or an independent wholesale distributor, the opportunity is to grow your market share. It's a big piece of pie. There's opportunity everywhere. And I think those businesses who develop a growth strategy, a growth roadmap, have a very detailed path to how they want to grow their business. And most importantly, those who execute that strategy, they are the ones that are going to thrive in the future.
When I was a young sales guy, I used to do the Brian Tracy training, and I always remembered one quote from him. He said that a average plan executed properly will outperform a brilliant plan where there's failure to execute. And really, that's what you're speaking to. Those companies that have that growth strategy in place and they execute it well, they're going to be able to take advantage of this massive opportunity in the sense of like how much market share is available.
Yeah, Jamie, over the years, I've seen great growth strategies fall flat on their face because of poor execution. So that couldn't be a more true statement that you just made.
So, Charles, from your perspective, if we're talking about sales, we're talking about the execution of a good sales strategy. How has the sales game really changed in the last few years, and what can we expect in the future?
Yeah, see, Jamie, I think that's a great question. If you look in the past, I've been in sales over 35 years. So if you look in the past, a lot of the information that customers can get today, where they counted on their salespeople in the past, product information, experience in the field, warranty, service network, pricing. Today, a customer can get most of that information right off the internet. So the role of a salesperson has fundamentally been altered. And today, I think what customers are looking for are partners that understand their business, they anticipate their needs, and they bring solutions to the party. So at AGS, what we're trying to do is design our courses that focus on the needs of today's customers, not sort of the past practices that we all kind of grew up with.
Okay, so I like what I hear, but then to actually go out and make that happen. So if we have a salesperson listening right now, they know they need to create value. So let's say you're going into a fleet. What kind of things can you do ahead of time just before you go and make that call to make sure that while you're there, you're going to actually be able to do what you just said needs to be done?
So again, that's a great segue. We're about ready to roll out our first course. It's called Sell Like a Pro. You'll find it on aftermarketgs.com, gsp.com.
Shameless plug, and I had it all lined up to give you a plug at the end.
I couldn't help myself. What we do is we walk a salesperson through the whole process: pre-sales call planning, how to react when you're with a customer, how to overcome objections, and really how to present the value that you're offering that customer. To me, if you look back in the past, there's two types of salespeople, right? You had the old type of salesperson. He walks in, he just starts pushing products. He doesn't understand the customer's needs, and he just immediately goes into, here's my brochure, and it starts on the sales pitch. Today, I think that's just an old way of doing it. And today, I think you really need to understand what your customers' needs are, and then try to match your products and services to their needs. And in many cases, you should be bringing solutions to the party even before the customer asks you about them, because you understand their business so well.
I love that. That is very important. You need to understand the problem you solve better than the customer who experiences the problem every day. Absolutely. Jeff, I want to throw this over to you. So I've been through a lot of training in my life and my career. You get really excited about the training and you go out into the field and you start using it and you get some results. But over time, that kind of trails off. So how do we make sure that we retain and use what we learn?
Yeah, so the course that Charlie referenced, Sell Like a Pro, is about a 2-hour course, and there's a lot of information in there. And it goes from the very basic fundamentals all the way through to what Charlie described, the AGS, we call it the AGS selling solutions method. And along the way, there's a lot of good information that needs to be developed by the student. Things like a SWOT analysis and how to build your value proposition. So we've put all of those resources on the course or available through the course for the student to print out and retain. And much of that is also the key takeaways from the course. What are the most important elements? But the bottom line is, to deliver results, to get results, you have to practice. It's like anything in life. Those who practice and build on the fundamentals and refine are the ones who are really going to thrive in the future. So, you don't wake up being a part sales professional just by reading a few things. You've got to practice it. You've got to develop your approach. You have to understand the marketplace, your competitors. You need to understand the customer. You need to understand how to get to those pain points that the customer may have. You got to understand how to present that solution to the customer. Teach them something about their business that they may not have even considered. And only when you master all of that do you become a bona fide sales pro.
Yeah, you talk about the SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunity, threat, value proposition. Why should people buy from you instead of the competitor? I mean, these are some things that to some of us we may go, well, that's kind of fundamental. But if it's missing from the system, the sales system that you're using, you're going to struggle.
That's right. You need to find what really resonates with your customer base. You can develop it and it could still fall flat.
Yeah, and that's where I really believe in a digital marketing space, they talk about A/B testing. So that's where maybe you'll throw up a landing page on your website and you'll have two versions, and then you kind of watch where does the traffic go, right? You split test it, you test it. I think with your sales, your pitch deck, your sales presentations, all of that, you need to be doing a little bit of that. Like, see what resonates with your ideal customer, and then do more of that and less of what doesn't.
Right.
Right. So that's actually a good opportunity to talk about who your ideal client is. So Charles, who's your ideal client?
Well, the first course, Sell Like a Pro, is designed for the outside sales professional. It could be at an independent repair facility. It could be at a dealership. It really could be in a number of different industries. But we also have a number of courses that are under development where we're going to look at the operations side of the business as well. And those will be coming out here in the next quarter. And so we're going to hopefully be a turnkey solution for companies, both their internal needs and also for their sales teams.
Well, it sounds really exciting. We look forward to seeing those courses hit the market. Jeff, now we get to test, it's not just theory anymore. This is the real deal. Why should a client work with you instead of a competitor?
Well, we've got two elements of our business, Jamie. One arm is consulting, really focused on growth strategies with those companies who really want to win in tomorrow's marketplace. And the other piece is the sales training. So our ideal client in the sales training area is really those who are at the retail level, independent wholesale distributors, dealerships, parts dealerships, whether it's Volvo, PACCAR, or Freightliner, for example. So what we really bring to the party is experience. Years and years of experience, thousands and thousands of contacts, where we have access to information, where we can find solutions or deliver solutions, whether it's on the training side or the consulting side. Having worked for Daimler Trucks North America for 30 plus years, I've personally been involved in the creation of many growth strategies. And because Daimler has deep pockets, our routine approach is to go out to the big four consulting companies. By the big four, I mean McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, Accenture, and Deloitte, and contract them to develop strategies with us. So we have the perspective of how these companies operate, how they approach various problems. And over the years, we've really developed our own abilities to do the kind of consulting and to do the kind of creative projects like training, where we don't need anybody's help. We can do it ourselves and do it better because we've lived the business. No one has to teach us about the heavy duty aftermarket. We've been immersed in that between Charlie and I for far too long, let's just say.
I was hoping you weren't going to put a number on that.
So we hit the ground running. We deliver a training program that is absolutely on target.
When I hear about that depth of experience, and then even like working with those consulting companies, if you are, let's say you're a small independent, you own 6 locations, you would just never get the opportunity to work with one of those big consulting companies. And since you've got that experience, you can bring all of that information and all of that value, something that the company you work for would have spent tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars on, and you can give that to your customers. I mean, that's exciting for anyone who decides to take one of your programs.
Yeah, Jamie, the number is actually in the millions of dollars.
I was thinking per project.
Yeah.
So yeah,
No,
aggregate that over 30 years and it is millions.
these guys don't come cheap. And really, that's another reason why um, companies should look at us. I mean, we can deliver an on-target um, deliverable without spending six figures.
Charles, what's the big idea behind the work that you're doing? Like, what is it that's really driving the two of you to do this?
Well, for me, Jeff and I both retired from Daimler. I was a 30-year guy. Um, I retired for about 18 months. I had a non-compete and I had to kind of sit on the bench for a little bit. But I honestly just don't feel like I'm old enough to retire. I like to work. And, I feel very fortunate. Over the course of my career, I worked for a lot of great companies. I worked for Daimler. Before that, I worked for Detroit Diesel, which Daimler ultimately purchased. And I had a great career and I saw maybe 50 countries around the world. And so I just feel like I have a lot of experience that I can share with the next generation coming up. I spent 10 years working for Jeff, and it was mostly a good experience, I'd say, for the most, for the most part.
Well, you partnered with them, so it couldn't have all been bad.
It couldn't have been all bad. But to me, it's about giving back. It's not about the money. It's more about the challenge. I like growing a business with Jeff. We sit down, we think through what we want to do. We're not encumbered with a big organization with lots of steering committees. We can sit down, the two of us, and kind of decide where we want to go and take the business. And to me, that's refreshing and it's reinvigorating.
Jeff, if there's one thing that you want the audience to take away from today's conversation, what's that one thing?
Well, there's a quote from Henry Ford that resonated with me over the years, and it's about the competition. And he said, the competitor to fear most is the one that that doesn't bother you at all at any time, but the one who goes about making his business better all the time. So the message there is you really can't be complacent. You can't be satisfied with where you're at. You always have to be trying to improve. Let's face it, the industry to date has been relatively slow to evolve, but there are disruptors. And sometimes the disruptors take years to materialize, but there will always be disruptors. And you mentioned one earlier, Jamie, with the one who figures out same-day delivery. But a disruptor that people may be familiar with is fleet pride, right? Years ago, the independent market was highly fragmented, and fleet pride said, well, let's begin to aggregate these regional players and local players and have a national footprint. And they accomplished that. And once an independent network has a network, you can now participate in the national fleet business because you can control the policies, you can control the pricing, you can provide that standardized approach that the national fleets are looking for. So the message that I think I'd like to people to take away with is don't stand still. Always look for ways to improve, think out of the box. And if you need a fresh set of eyes to take a look at some things, that's why Charlie and I formed this business, to provide a different perspective. But there will definitely be winners and losers. And the goal of our company is to work with those who want to develop those winning strategies.
You've been watching HDPR Live. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and we've been speaking with Charles and Jeff, co-founders of Aftermarket Growth Solutions. To learn more, go to aftermarketgsp.com. I promised I would give you a shout out. Charles, Jeff, thank you for being on HDPR Live today.
Thank you, Jamie.
You can watch our next video. Make sure to click the like button, write a comment, and don't forget to subscribe.